Hi Stitchy friends, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. My name is Kenzie from Mudpuppy Stitchery. I am a cross-stitch designer, I am a bird nerd and a wildlife lover, and I enjoy doing all of the crafty things. So if you're new, welcome. I hope you like what you see, and I hope that you'll continue to follow up with me on all of my future videos. And for all of my current subscribers, thank you so very much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So hi everyone, I hope everybody has been well. Things have been going well here, but with not too much to report. We have had some pretty hot weather here, so it really hasn't felt like fall yet, but it is already the end of September, which is just crazy and I can't believe it. And it's been getting darker earlier, so there is a lot more cozy time to do crafts, which has been really nice. So something super random but really fun that I wanted to tell you about that happened recently was that I went to a bachelorette party a few weeks back, and we went to what's called a rage room. And I had never done one before, but it sounded really fun. It's basically a giant protected room, and the employees set up all of these like old crusty furniture and old TVs that don't work anymore. So things that are already going to be going straight to the trash, and you gear up in safety gear and protect your face and your body, and you smash things. So they had a crowbar, a sledgehammer, and a baseball bat, and oh my goodness, it felt so wrong to smash things and to break glass intentionally, but once you got past the initial shock, it was so much fun. And I think probably one of the most fun things to do was to fling plates like a frisbee towards the back wall, and then it would just shatter into a million pieces. So anyway, very random, but if you ever get a chance to do something like that, to go to a rage room, it's very cathartic, and I would highly recommend it because it's actually really fun. But as far as crafting goes, I didn't think I would have a lot to share, but I ended up with a decent amount, so I think we should hop right into that and get started. I'd like to first start out with some of my fully finished objects, and I have quite a few to share with you today. So I think in my last video, or the video prior to that, I had shown you a sequined and beaded monarch butterfly. And this is a pin, and this was inspired by Bianca from The Closet Historian, which I'll make sure to link down below. But she makes these absolutely beautiful sequined bug pins, and I have always wanted to try making one. And the monarch, it went decently well, although I didn't really enjoy the sequining portion just because I kept having issues with the sequins flipping whenever I was trying to sew them down. So I started making a common Eastern bumblebee by gluing the sequins down instead of sewing them, just to try that. And that did not work well at all, and it looked awful. So I scrapped that and tried again with just beads, and this is how he turned out. So I think he turned out really cute, and I really love how his little legs and antenna look. It was kind of a beast to bead onto the wire and to hand sew the wire onto his body, but now he has little posable appendages which make it look a lot more real, so I think it was worth it. But I just very sloppily sewed on a clip on the back so I could pin it to, you know, wherever I wanted, and yeah, I think he turned out decently good. I'm still planning on doing another monarch butterfly, but with just beads this time, kind of like this one. So hopefully my technique will have gotten a little bit better since the last time. The next fully finished object I'd like to show you is my favorite colors crochet granny square blanket, which I am sitting on right here. And I think it turned out fantastic. So this was started on December 4th of last year and was stitched with all Lion brand Heartland yarns with a 6mm hook. And the colors are really fun and crazy because for my first blanket, I didn't really want to stitch the same colors over and over again and get bored. So I allowed for this blanket to be a little bit more colorful and bold. This was super relaxing and super easy to stitch on, especially as a travel piece, because you just focus on one block at a time and it's pretty mindless stitching. So it was a good break when I was too tired for cross stitching. So I'm really happy with it. I think it turned out pretty good. And it is a huge blanket. It actually fits my queen size bed. So that was definitely a feat to get this finished. But I will definitely be doing more of these blankets like this in the future because I really enjoyed doing this one. I was able to finish another baby blanket, and this one is for TJ's sister-in-law who will be having a baby within this next month. So I think last video I had showed this baby blanket, and this is what I thought I was going to gift to her. But I ended up not loving it as much as I thought I would. I mean, it's decent, but I wasn't loving it. So I thought I could do better. And so I went and made this baby blanket. And this one I love. I think this is probably one of the prettiest baby blankets that I've done so far, but boy, it was a lot of work. Piecing together all of the smaller granny squares together took forever, and I had to do some very creative blocking in order to fit them all together, but I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I am really excited to give this to them soon. And as far as the other baby blanket, I'll save that one and use that when I need like an emergency baby blanket gift. So that will be good to have as a backup. And I have made so many baby blankets this year. It's literally crazy. And it will be interesting to count them all up at the end of the year and actually see how many I made. And the next fully finished item is Prairie Schooler Prairie Birds. And I am so pleased with how this turned out and extremely happy to have this complete. So this was started in August of last year, and I just finished it in August of this year. And it is stitched on an 18 count evergreen by Fiber on a Whim Fabrics. And I just love this fabric. I will definitely be buying more of it because it is so pretty. And this was a stitch along with one of my Flosstube friends, Gwen, and I had so much fun stitching on it this past year. I had fully finished it by wrapping a piece of batting and mat board and hot glued it onto this live edge piece of wood that I picked up at Joann's, and I stained this myself. I wasn't super sure about the greenery at first and was kind of playing around with the placement of it, but I ended up liking it kind of like this. So the greenery is not glued in, it's kind of just stuck in on the sides. So if I want to adjust it, then I can. And then I added a whole bunch of trim all around the edges to finish it off. We'll see if it focuses. There you go. And yeah, it was done. So this was one of my goals this year, to complete this piece, and I am so finally happy to have it stitched and complete, and I am so eager to mount this onto the wall and to get it displayed. My next fully finished piece is a little bit of a strange one, and it requires a little bit of a backstory to explain it. So it is this super cute fall cow bracelet that I stitched, and then I glued it onto a piece of leather and made it into a cross stitch bracelet. Now it is not super well made. This is definitely a prototype, but I still think it turned out pretty cute. As far as the pattern, I came across all of these free bracelet patterns on a website that I will make sure to link down below. And initially, I wanted to try making these beautiful knotted bracelets. So I did some research and I went down a rabbit hole and I tried it out. They're actually called alpha bracelets, and oh my goodness, they are so difficult. So usually I'm not too bad when I try out new crafts, but this one was way over my head and I only ended up making a partial bracelet. But if you look at the patterns, they are literally just pixel art and essentially cross-stitch patterns. And so if I can't make it in knots, then I can certainly make it in cross-stitch. So I whipped this up and ironed in the excess edges of the Ada, and I used a super strong glue to attach it to the bracelet-sized piece of leather that I was able to buy from Hobby Lobby. I was able to use some of TJ's leather working tools to make eyelet holes and create a bracelet base so that I would be able to tie it onto my wrist. So as far as the closure, that is my failed attempt at making the knotted bracelet. So I reused it as a closure for the bracelet. So it is not the best looking, but I think it turned out okay. It's usable. So the only issue that I'm having is making sure the edges of the cross stitch are secured down, even though there's really strong glue. I just don't want the edges lifting off. And so I tried to stitch on some beads that would help to make the edges look neater and hopefully keep them from lifting. And this kind of sort of worked. It definitely added like a nice sparkle to it, but I'm not sure it was the best option. So again, a bit sloppy. I'm trying to think of an idea to help keep the edges secure, but ideally I don't want to have to stitch through the leather for like the whole bracelet length because that takes a lot of work and it ruins your needles. So I'm not entirely sure, but if you have any ideas, please let me know down below. So, long story short, not a 100% success, but I still think it's pretty darn cute and at least a good prototype for the next one. And I will make sure to link this free pattern down below as well, and all of the others that I've saved that I want to do next, because there is a lot of them. And who knows, if I can figure out a way to fully finish this properly, I will try making a tutorial video to show my progress, but we shall see. And last but not least for my finishes was my newest design release, which was Friend of Herons, and I am so excited with how it turned out. I have been working on this design on and off for a long time now, so it feels so good to finally have it complete. And this was inspired by one of my favorite Flosstubers, Michelle from MommaLovesyouGB, who she has a love of herons. And I absolutely love herons as well. And there certainly is a lack of heron charts existing in the world, so I thought I would create one. And in this chart, you've got the gray heron, you've got the great blue heron, the green heron, and the little egret over by the house. And I really wanted to create a fancy Edwardian lady because that's one of my favorite historical time periods, just because it's so elegant and lovely. And my friend Kim from Contented Needleworker Kim had a great idea. She had an idea to just stitch the lady and the main great gray heron, and I thought that was a fantastic idea. So please go ahead and just stitch the main portion, change the colors, add in variegated floss, just go for it. I am always in favor of people customizing my charts and adding their own personal flair to it. So if you are interested in this chart, please take a look at my Etsy page, which will be linked down below, and grab a PDF copy for yourself. Before I hop into my cross-stitching and crochet whips, I'd like to move on to another segment I like to call Wildlife Minute, where I give a little talk on wildlife, biology, animals, or anything that strikes my fancy. So hopefully you'll learn something new and it will encourage you to take a deeper dive into the wonders of the natural world. But if you're just interested in the crafty stuff, feel free to skip to this time point. Hi friends, Wildlife Kenzie here. So I received a great video suggestion a few videos back from two of my lovely subscribers, and they wanted to learn a little bit more about salamanders and frogs, or what we like to call amphibians. Now, amphibians are a class of vertebrates where, like us, they have a spinal cord. Although that is about where our similarities end, because they are considered cold-blooded, where they rely on the environment around them to help regulate their body temperature. In comparison to us, our body does that automatically. And because they can't regulate their body temperature, they are considered ectothermic. Amphibians don't have scales, unlike their reptile cousins, and keeping their skin moist and hydrated is extremely important to their overall health for many reasons. One of the most important reasons is that they are able to breathe through their semi-permeable skin, especially when they're underwater, and they have to keep moist in order for gases to permeate through. So that's why it's so important that if you happen to see a frog out in your front yard, before you pick it up, make sure that your hands are clean, because any perfumes or lotions or anything that's stuck to your skin can block their skin's ability to breathe. Luckily, that is not the only way that amphibians can breathe. They also have lungs, and some have gills for a portion of their life, or for their entire life. For example, the Mudpuppy, which is my channel mascot, has permanent red gills on its head for the entirety of its life cycle, in comparison to tadpoles who metamorphize into frogs and lose their gills. Now, you can imagine that because of the semi-permeable skin, anything dangerous that humans pollute our waterways with will severely affect our amphibian friends. In fact, amphibian population and diversity is an excellent way to tell if the ecosystem around you is healthy. They are considered indicator species, so an ecosystem is generally strong and healthy when there are lots of amphibians present. There's one last really cool thing that I'd like to share about amphibians, and that's what happens when it gets really cold outside. How do they survive the winter? They actually hibernate, and some hibernate in the water, others hibernate outside of the water, but their metabolism slows down enough where they are almost dead, but not quite. So if you were to find a hibernating frog in the wintertime somewhere and you were to pick it up, it would be as solid as a rock, because they are essentially frozen solid, and most of their organs are frozen solid and their heart has stopped beating. So the only way that amphibians survive this intense hibernation is because of a natural antifreeze. I'd like to read you a quote from an article from the medical company Pfizer, who is studying this type of frog antifreeze. They state that first, water flows out of its internal organs, which eventually forms into a surrounding protective layer of ice. Meanwhile, in its body accumulates urea and glucose, which act as an antifreeze, keeping the individual cells in vital organs from freezing. And scientists hope that by closely studying amphibians, they can figure out how to safely freeze individual human tissues and organs. So super cool, right? What an amazing way that we can learn from nature to make advancements in medical science. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's Wildlife Minute, and now back to the stitching. Welcome back! Let's hop back into the stitching and talk about one of my new purchases and starts, which was Modern Folk Embroidery's Fruit of Plenty 2021 Stitch Along. And I have always loved this chart, and I've always wanted to do this one, but it is huge and many parts of it are basically full coverage, but it's absolutely gorgeous. So I finally took the first step. I bought the PDF and I gave it a start, and this is what it looks like so far. So I was not planning on having it look this way initially. I had actually completely different threads in mind that were meant to go with this beautiful fabric, which is 18 count eggshell from Fiber on a Whim Fabrics. But I had saw this picture of WIPS Dyeworks Latte and absolutely fell in love with this thread, with all its beautiful greens and pinks and browns and creams. And so I was able to order a couple skeins from 123 Stitch. And luckily I only ordered a couple because when they came in, they looked like this. So completely tans and browns and really pretty, but not at all what I was expecting. So I was pretty disappointed, and I know a lot of the time dye lots change, and so I must have seen an older dye lot picture on the WIPS Dyeworks website. But yeah, it was really disappointing, unfortunately. But then I didn't really have any idea of what threads I was going to use for this chart. But I remembered hearing lots of good things about Roxy Floss Co. from Canada and decided to take a look at their website. And I was completely attracted to these two colors, Plumage and Violet Woods. But I wasn't sure they would work well with this slightly greenish fabric. And it's kind of an odd color combination, but for some reason, I am always just attracted to greens and lilacs together, or greens and violets. And so I decided to take the plunge and try it. So the floss is absolutely beautiful. I just wish it was more heavily variegated. But anyway, that's been the debacle behind this piece and why it looks this way. So I think I just need some reassurance of either, yes, this looks great, just keep going, or no, it could really use some more variegated thread. It's worth the time and the money to buy something different. I don't know. What do you guys think? I am kind of stuck at this point. And it's going to be a big chart with pretty small margins on this piece of fabric. So I'll probably need to sew some excess fabric onto the sides just so that it's easier to stitch on. But this is how big it will be. So pretty huge. And I think what will help is that for the vine work within this solid block of stitching, I'm not going to leave it blank, which just sounds like a nightmare for counting. Instead, I'm going to stitch it in with some sort of white thread or something that will pop really nicely against the violet woods. So I'm not entirely sure. Let me know what you guys think down below. But again, this is Fruits of Plenty by Modern Folk Embroidery. Another start was another baby blanket for a friend down in Georgia, and their baby colors are purple and yellow. And so I started on this and was able to get a couple blocks done. So like the other baby blankets, this is just granny squares that are just stitched together, although I am only doing 9 squares this time. I was a little unsure of the colors initially, but I think it's turning out quite cute. And for some reason, it kind of reminds me of like Rugrats colors. So very bright and very happy and very fun. So I'm going to keep working on this and hopefully make some more progress soon. I was able to get a little bit more progress on one of my favorites, Jane Atkinson from the Scarlet Letter. And wow, she is turning out just gorgeous. The colors on this piece are absolutely stunning. And I really, really enjoy working on her. And so this was started on Easter of this year and is being stitched on 18 count vellum by Picture This Plus fabric. Now this is going to be a huge piece, over 16 inches wide and about 25.5 inches tall. And I've got this fabric folded 4 times, so I've got a lot more fabric than this. So I am considering this my 5-year cross stitch piece. But I worked on this really big middle flower right here and got a little bit burnt out. And I needed to work or move on to something else. But this piece is super addicting to work on because it's basically a lot of outlining and then filling in, and so it's really easy stitching. I think the toughest part is wrangling all of this fabric, but it is so very fun and I can't wait to get this one back out again. The next WIP that I worked on is another favorite of mine, which is 100 Owls by Owl Forest Embroidery. And this is what it looks like. So I was almost able to finish my assignment, which was to finish this quadrant right here. But I ran out of thread, and so I'll have to make a trip to the craft store to go buy some more. But it is turning out so beyond gorgeous, and I cannot wait to have this hanging on my wall. And as you can see, I have 2 more quadrants here to finish up on the left-hand side of the piece, and then I will be completely done. And this will be a finish this year. That I can guarantee it. And I am planning on having this professionally framed, and I already have a spot on the wall picked out for it. But this is being stitched on 18 count moss by My Vintage Needle Arts on Etsy, and was started in August of 2021. So it is one of my oldest WIPs. And this is actually a free chart that you can download on the Owl Forest Embroidery website. So definitely go do that. I'll have it linked down below. And I really want to stitch more from Owl Forest Embroidery, and I'm really interested in trying their super variegated threads. They look absolutely gorgeous. But I'm just going to keep plugging away on this, working on my quadrants, and I will keep you updated on my progress. And last but not least, I worked on my October 31st by Cottage Garden Samplings, and I was able to completely fill in the pumpkin. And this is what it looks like. I am really happy with the progress there, and I am so eager to start working on the crow. Now, this was a stitch along from last year with Lorrie of Mischievous Stitches, and I think she's still working on hers as well. I decided to stitch this on an 18 count cornflower by Fiber on a Whim Fabrics, and I'm planning on changing the October 31st to 2024 because I plan on finishing it this year. So I am definitely well over halfway done, so I just need to focus on it and get it complete. And I just love how it's turning out. I think the colors look great on this fabric. And this spooky stitching is definitely getting me into the mood for fall and cooler weather, even though we're still consistently having about mid-80s recently. So yeah, I think it's turning out great, and hopefully next time I speak with you, I'll be much closer to a finish. And so those are all of my starts and WIPs. And I did just want to say a huge thank you to a wonderful friend and lovely subscriber, Patty, who very generously donated a huge amount of animal cross-stitch charts and other bird-related items. So thank you so very much. That was so generous of you, and I really appreciate it. And I've already been in contact with her, but I wanted to do a huge shout out and send a big thank you her way. I did make a few purchases over the past month that I wanted to share with you, and quite a few bits of fabric, which is my favorite cross-stitch item to purchase besides the charts. So I showed this to you earlier. This fabric was for my Modern Folk Embroidery Stitch Along, and this is Eggshell by Fiber on a Whim Fabrics. And it's this gorgeous yellowy greenish fabric with beautiful light modeling. So love that. I also bought a few smaller cuts from Picture This Plus because they were a good price and I like to try out different fabric colors. So we have Lichen, which is somewhat similar to the Eggshell, but a little bit less green and more subtle modeling. So absolutely gorgeous. And then we've got Valor, which is more of a silvery gray-green, and that's absolutely gorgeous. And then we've got Oaken, which is a wheat color and super pretty. Love that. And then my favorite is Barnwood, which is a rich chocolatey brown, and I absolutely love it. I think I already have a chart that's going to be picked out for this, but I will show that to you next time. But I just love all of these. These are just so gorgeous. And then I bought two charts that have been on my list for a while, which was Dear Heart by Kathy Barrick. I absolutely love this one. I'll probably be changing a lot of the colors. And for the deer, I wanted him to be a little bit darker, so I bought Weeks Dye Works Cocoa for his coat. So very excited about that. And then of course, I had to buy Beloved by Running with Needles and Scissors. And for right now, I only plan on stitching this center motif because it's just gorgeous. And then I'll probably change the purples on this female bird to more browns or grays, just because I don't really love purple and red together. And usually female songbirds are more dull than their male counterparts. So we'll see, but it's going to be so much fun, and I'm so glad to have both of these in my stash. And last but not least, I wanted to share a freebie, and this one is one of the pixel art free bracelet designs that you can use as a cross stitch chart, and I absolutely love this one and will be stitching it soon. It's just a whole row of cardinals, and it is so darn pretty. So I will make sure to link this down below, and this was designed by a user named Goldflower. And I definitely recommend checking out this website. There are a whole bunch of super cute bird designs and animal designs, and I'll link some of my favorites down below. So definitely go check it out. All right, Stitchy friends, that is all that I have for you today. So I hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please like the video, please comment down below, check out my Etsy page, and please follow me at Mudpuppy Stitchery on Instagram to keep an eye on what I'm doing in between videos. So I appreciate you so very much, and I hope to see you in about 3 weeks. So take care, do some bird watching, and stitch all of the things. Bye!